Hello, everybody. This is John Biasiello from Sukay Associates. Um, Here today with another three questions. Welcome, my friend Robin. Robin Lewis is going to talk about a transaction that we did together. I'm glad to have Robin here today. I'm going to ask Robin to introduce himself. So, Robin, welcome and thank you for agreeing to be on three questions today. So if you just introduce yourself to the audience, that would be great.
Yes, sir, John. It's good. It's good to be here with you, sir. And I think probably a very appropriate way for me to introduce myself is to say that I am a happy customer of John's. And I've been in the insurance field for 40 something years, owned our own agency for 30 years, and sold, as we're doing this recording, approximately almost 2 years ago now, John. Can you believe that?
No, it's crazy.
And I'm married to my wife, Edna. She was in the business with me. We've been married 37 years. Actually, this year, August, will be 38. And we have one child, Jillian, and just had our first grandchild, who's now 6 months old. His name is Jalen. And so we're proud grandparents. And you know how that is, John. People talk about it and they tell you, they set you up and try to get you ready for it, but I wasn't really ready for it, man. Such a blessing. We can't get enough of him. And so that's a little bit about me.
Yes, I do understand. I'm on number 6, so but
wow.
They're all different, and it's all new. Every single time it was new. So
I hear you. That's such a blessing, huh?
It is. It's just awesome. We just had them for the weekend, so nice. So it was great. So again, Robin, thanks for doing this. It's called Three Questions, but there may be a few others that we get to, hopefully. And just for your purposes, I mean, we just want you to, whatever comes to your mind, and so it's been a couple of years since we closed your transaction. One of the questions I love to ask is, what surprised you most in the transaction? What was more surprising than you thought it would be?
Wow, that's a good question. I think the first thing that comes to my mind, and after I think about it, it might end up being still the most. But the first thing that comes to my mind is that, John, unfortunately, a lot of the people that were with us didn't stay. I was kind of hoping that would be, that was something that I was hoping to have happen, and that's one of the things that I was surprised did not happen. As you and I spoke about the whole process, that was one of the things that, as I even thought about a buyer, I wanted it to be the kind of situation where the people that were on with us would thrive and want to stay on, and so on. And so, we were trying, that was the intention, in other words. And so, but it didn't work out that way. It's one of those things. And
how did you adjust to that?
How did I adjust? I think, one of the things is people have to do what's best for them. So some of those situations were where people decided that they needed to move on somewhere else. And we just encourage them to do what's best for them. And then try to obviously make adjustments with where we are. I had to, I think for the first year, at least solid, I had to be very much involved with client relationships, to sort of help to, strengthen, make sure the relationships were secure with our clients. And so that's one of the things that I did personally. The plan for us for our listeners to know is that my wife, who was very much a part of the business as well, she was an account manager, so she was very much involved with clients. She retired, so a few months after the sale, and that was a part of the agreement with the sale, is that she was going to retire. So that was another reason why I kind of had to get involved quite a bit, and it actually turned out to be a really good thing, John, because one of the benefits that I received from it is, and I hope I'm answering your question, by the way. Let me pause and see. You're
doing great.
Going in the right direction?
Great. You're doing fantastic.
Thank you. So, I realized that we had so many clients, John. I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't know it to this extent, but I'm happy to discover it, that we had so many clients that were with us for 20, 25, 30 plus years, man. And I sort of felt obligated to them too, in a way that at least I wanted to be there to try and help make this transition as smooth as possible for them. And that's when I discovered the loyalty that we had. We had really good, loyal customers. But that was an adjustment for me. Clearly, it was an adjustment with the culture of the new company that I'm still a part of right now, by the way, as we record this. It's a little different, a lot of good, and I don't think good and bad is the right word to use, but different. So their culture they're a much bigger organization than mine was, and so their approach to things was a little different. So that's one of the adjustments that I had to make, is try to get adjusted to the new culture, if you will. I can tell you I didn't do well the first part of it. I remember actually in a meeting, getting a little bit upset about some things that were said and done. And that was on me. That was on Robin. So it was a part of the adjusting, part of the learning for me. Clearly, I think another big learning for me was, now I'm not calling the shots, right? I'm not making the decisions. And so I might make different decisions than what they do. And so that was also a big adjustment that I had to make. So that all ties in with not having the people there, because I think it would have been a little different having more of our team members there on more of a long-term basis. We did have, some that stayed on, so everybody didn't leave like right away. We had somebody maybe a year and a half afterwards moved away, moved out of the state. Edna retired, of course, and we had some that, where they decided to leave, or a couple that were actually let go. So that's kind of what happened there.
So, Robin, a little bit about your business. I mean, when we first met, a lot of your business, because it's in Florida, was, with the state agency. So, can you talk a little bit about that, and how that worked with, doing a transaction, and how we went back and forth with, a lot of the different buyers, and it was a difficult part of the process, I would assume, for you. I know it was, from our perspective, because, it was very interesting working with a bunch of the buyers out there because of that. So maybe you can give people some idea of what your business was like.
Yeah, so the market was, my business was 85% personal and 15% commercial, first of all. And the majority of that 85% was in the home market. And so most of our business was in the homeowners market, John, as you know. And the market was very difficult. I'm in South Florida, and we had a really bad situation with litigation. There were third parties out there that were just taking advantage of a situation that we had, a specific law that we had in Florida, where 80% of the files that were in litigation in our country were in Florida, right? 80%. So a very high number, and this was causing a significant amount of money being paid out, and the majority of that were going in attorney's fees. And so a lot of insurance companies had stopped writing. We had 8 insurance companies that went out of business. The big guys weren't writing, meaning the national companies. They're most of them still aren't writing. The State Farm, the Allstate, the Progressives, the Geicos, and so on, right? And so a lot of the companies that were writing were regional companies, and they either stopped writing or went out of business, or were writing on a very, very limited basis. And so that was kind of the market that we were in at the time. And a lot of the policies that we had written then were then written through the what we call the state-run company, now called Citizens. So Citizens, there are a few things that go on with that. I don't know how much detail you want me to go into, John, but that kind of sets the stage of where the market that we were in at the time.
Right. So all during the process of you trying to decide, what the next steps were for you, you were dealing with that. You were dealing with, deciding what you wanted to do as far as your next step in life, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So it was a pretty tough situation.
Yeah.
I would say. Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
A lot
so
going on. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Without a doubt.
So what made you make the decision to bring in an advisor into this process? What was it that made you think to actually have someone help you in the process?
Well, first of all, let me say, this is not the start, but let me say that somebody who went through this process before actually referred me to you. And but the reason why I reached out to you initially, John, I don't know if you remember, was to just try to get an idea of what the business would be valued at, right?
Right.
If and when we decide to do something here, what are we looking at? And to just try and find out a little bit more about what that would even look like. So that's how it started for me. And you were kind enough to help me to understand some things about that. And one of the things that stood out to me is that if I wanted to get the highest value for my business, it probably would mean that I was going to need to stay on anywhere from 3 to 5 years with the company that bought us. And so when I heard that time frame, it was a little bit more motivation for me, because I didn't want to wait until 3 to 5 years down the road then to go and then wait another 3 to 5 years. And so that's what helped me to actually come back to you and say, hey, John, I would like to actually consider putting this out in the market and seeing what actually can come from this. Because if I'm going to stay on for another 3 to 5 years, potentially, then I don't want to wait too long before we start that process. So I'm giving you the quick overview, sir. If there are any other details you'd like me to share, please.
No, I mean, I was just, wondering. It's interesting that you say that, because, the idea of actually planning, what you're going to do in the future is definitely something that we preach. I mean,
Yeah.
And you were a very good example of that.
Yes.
For us, you were very good. We had worked together for a year or two before you decided to actually go out to market.
That's correct.
In that capacity. We've built Sukay and Associates around that concept of, we're not sell first, we're help first, right?
Yes.
So,
very much the case for me. And,
right.
So not only from that vantage point, but from the vantage point of certainly the other types of buyers that were out there too. You helped me to understand that if I didn't want to stay 3 to 5 years, I could find buyers who would want to just come in and take over, but I probably wouldn't get the full value for the business, or the buyer where if there are buyers out there who might want to buy and then have me stay on and kind of run things still, but just know, under them. So there are different buyers that you also introduced me to help me to kind of think through what I would be looking for. So it was very helpful. I couldn't agree more. And then in addition to that, you help me to understand what, how the business is valued and the things that you have to really focus in on. You help me to understand what I'm going to have to do to actually go through the process, so you help me to get ready in terms of what it's going to take, the paperwork that's needed, the documents, the contracts, and so on. All of that stuff, you help me to understand ahead of time, so that I could be prepared. So I definitely, in my case, you did exactly that.
Great. I'm glad that part of it was important to you, because we do try and focus on that, on getting clients ready. And we always love to get involved, prior to a client ready to sell. That's really where I think we can really provide some great value. And the other part that I think, and you and I had gone through this, is that we don't stop being your advisor just after we do the sale.
Yeah.
So I know that there were some things that you were working through after the sale, and it's not important what they were, or just what I mean. I know a lot of people that use advisors tell me that that after the sale, they never spoke to their advisor again, which I find odd. But what was your after the sale experience? Could you share some of that?
I would
what the issues were, but just your experience with us.
Yeah. So for our listeners, this is not a paid advertisement. I want you to know that John and I didn't even discuss what we were going to be talking about here. But John, I've referred a few people to you as well, and that's one of the reasons. Actually, I find it invaluable afterwards. There were a lot of things actually that came up afterwards that I needed guidance on, I needed help on. Sometimes I just needed somebody to run something by. But there were also specific situations that I had to address, that I can't tell you what it was like to be able to pick up the phone and call you. And you were right there all the time. You said it from the beginning and in the middle when we actually went through the transaction. You said it, Robin, we're not done here. Just know that I'm here for you. If there's anything that you need, I am right there with you. And you have been that, and I found it to be very helpful, very meaningful, actually. And without getting into details, some of the things that we've had to deal with, and you have been there on the other end of that call, and you've helped me to even consider maybe at some point in time considering getting legal help. You've been such a tremendous help actually after the sale. I can't actually overemphasize that. It's something that you don't expect. Like even me, I would expect okay, it's done. And especially in the transaction that we negotiated, I would have thought that after a short amount of time, okay, that's it,
Goodbye, Robin, right?
Yeah. But and I don't mean to be dramatic, but it didn't go all that way. There are definitely some things where you were an invaluable friend and resource and guide, advisor. That was very beneficial.
Great. And I know one of our partners also was a very invaluable resource to you. I know Richard was a pretty valuable resource to you. So I know that was, and what was, if I had to ask, what was your favorite part of the transaction?
The favorite part of the transaction, I think when I look back, overall, I'm just happy that with the decision that I made, that I have made this transition in my life. It was time for us. And so I think, there is clearly times where I second guess But when I look back at it all, in the good and the bad, right? There are some things that weren't all that good, or different, I think is a better word, as I said earlier, than what I expected. But I think a part of the transaction was very good. And I know it might not be the same for everybody, but the transaction that you actually helped us to negotiate was very good in terms of pricing, in terms of terms, in terms of the time after the obligation, afterwards, after the sale, my time obligation, I mean. I like the idea. The company that I am with right now was very good. I must say this about them in terms of they have allowed me, because they know that I've owned the company for 30 plus years. They have allowed me to kind of do my thing. I don't have to punch a clock. I don't have to, ask for time off. Things like that. They've been really respectful and what's the word? Courteous. They've been thoughtful. I think that's the right word about me in that regard, and that's been a good thing. But overall, the best thing that's happened was actually moving forward with it. It's a difficult thing that I wasn't sure about, that I was a little bit anxious about, that it took me a long while to actually make the decision to do it. And when I look back at things now, it was the right decision for me. And I'm glad to have the team that was around me. I'm glad to have you as a part of that. And where we are right now, where we've put ourselves in a place where we have some choices, some options, as we are now in this new season of our lives.
That's great. So Robin, one of the things I always like to do is ask guys like you to look into the camera and talk to the people out there that haven't made that decision, right?
Yeah.
They haven't made that decision. What would you tell them?
Oh man, it's a big decision. There are times where there are things about it that I miss, right? So there are some things I think if and when you were to make the decision like what I did, there are things about it that you're gonna miss. So give it good thought. I think it's good to plan. I think it's good to get with somebody like John, or somebody like John who can help you to plan. I think no matter what you do, and there are obviously different options. So a part of planning is examining the different options. What are your options in terms of succession for your company, for your organization? Maybe there's somebody in your company who needs to buy it. Maybe there's somebody in your family. Maybe you want to continue on and bring a partner on that runs it for you. And I don't know, John is better at putting forward all the various different options. But what I would say to somebody who is in my prior position, I would say consider all the options. Look at your options. The other thing that I would say is really be good about doing business, right? Do business in such a way that you're going to increase the value of your business. There are things that John helped me with that a lot of them we are aware of. Some of them we might not be, but I would just encourage you, so I'll mention some of them, John. Certainly, the team, right? A lot of times companies buy agencies like ours because the team that they're going to get. And so you want to really be good at making sure you have a really good team together, right? And so that's where your leadership comes in. That's where I didn't do the best at. If you look back and see what happened with me, I have to take responsibility for a lot of that, right? And so I would say, look at your team, make sure you are investing in them, make sure there is clarity, and make sure you're holding them accountable. Definitely look at how you're operating in terms of profit. The higher the profit that you're making, the more value you're going to bring to your business. So things like that in terms of your business, have systems and processes in place. The more that your business can operate without you is the better value that it's going to bring to somebody who is buying. So I think all of those things are good considerations, John.
Thank you, Robin. And I think that was fantastic. And I really appreciate you coming on and having this conversation. It's funny how, our clients always end up, for some reason, being our friends. And I always count you as part of that. And again, always appreciate you. And I know, you're enjoying your time now and being able to enjoy your grandson, and and that's something that I think is really important in your life right now. So I'm glad for you. I'm glad for how the deal went, like even the rough stuff we were able to get through. And thanks again for agreeing to do this.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure, sir. I say that with all sincerity. And you said that you told me that, I think in the early stages of us talking, that what you just said, that your clients end up as friends, long-term friends. And I do consider you a friend. And I'm glad that you include me in that circle. And you have treated me in that way. And I can pick up the phone and call you anytime, and you answer. And if you're not able to, you get back to me in a timely manner. And it's I really, there are, whenever you have something that is good, just like, if a client is really happy with how I have dealt with them, then they're going to refer me to their family and their friends and their associates. And I happily do that with you. And so I'm happy to come on here and share, about the experience, because I appreciate you. You've added value to my life in a major way. And I'm very much appreciative of that. Very much appreciative. I can say without hesitation that if I had tried to do this on my own, it wouldn't have been anywhere near as good as the way that it has turned out. So all the differences that I've talked about, it's different. If we look at everything that happened, there's no question in my mind that it would have been a whole lot worse if we hadn't partnered with you, John. So I really appreciate you. You've really impacted my life, and I want you to know that.
Thanks, Robin.